All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I brought all my cousins here today. No, thanks for coming. Thanks for watching online. I am Daniel Norton. You are watching OnSet. I said that really weird. That's not my normal intro, is it? That's okay. We'll make it up. But we're going in a different direction today. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I have Erica here. That's on the mighty mix. And yeah, here we go. So we're going to talk about portraits today. One of the most common things that I get asked about is focal length. Like, what lens should I buy? And what camera is the other thing, but what lens is the big one, right? Because usually by the time people come to me, they already have a camera. So, and they'll say, which lens do you use? And I think that's an interesting way to start when you're trying to enter into a creative field. Like, you look at people that maybe you like their work, like Seth. I look at Seth and I'm like, what lens is that guy using? And I start that way, right? But I can tell you that not always will you enjoy using the tools that the people that you like their work use, right? You may have a different way of operating. You have a different vision, right? That's what makes things interesting. But when it comes down to making portraits, there's kind of these rules. And I was joking about it earlier, that almost always, so I'm waiting for you in the live stream, there'll be somebody who will very specifically say, no, this is what you have to do. This is it. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. So I'm going to start off so you don't have to stick around for an hour if you don't want to, and say that there is no perfect lens, right? The best lens is going to depend on what you're doing. So what we're going to do today, instead of saying, take an 85 millimeter 1.4, that's the lens, right? Because I know you think that's the right lens, right? Or, oh no, the 50 millimeter 1.2. Oh no, I use a 90 millimeter macro. Let's mess around. Do you use a 400 millimeter lens when you shoot your portraits? I used to work for a guy that did, right? Yeah. And he was a big commercial photographer, shot all kinds of stuff, right? Boom, 400 millimeter lens. Weird side, interesting thing. This is how old I am. I was a photo assistant. This guy shot the first commercials for a certain blue pill. And on the photo shoot, we're all like, and sure enough, it became very popular. Anyways.
Well, we needed that.
Well, they'll cut it out. I didn't say any names. I didn't get a sponsorship.
I don't know how we could have gone on with this without that amazing tidbit.
400 millimeter lens on the beach. That's what you need for that. All right. Here we go. So rolling past that. So we're going to shoot through a bunch of stuff. So I reached out and I asked Tamron to send me some lenses to use. That's what we're going to use today. I'm still using my standard camera, Nikon Z6ii. I don't know what I use, but this is a Tamron. If we're going to start with the Tamron 35 to 150, because I figure if you're shooting a portrait, you're going to be somewhere in that range usually, right? 35 to 150. Now this space, as you might know from like the last 7 event titles, is small. Right? So 150 millimeter lens might be a bit long in here. We're going to find out. Yeah, that's right. Derek is tiny. And we're going to go from here. Why do we use different focal lengths? That's what we're going to explore here. Okay. So the first obvious thing would be you're trying to shoot several people or in a bigger space, right? And you want to get like the mural on the wall, right, of the painter that you're photographing. You're doing an environmental portrait, right? In these cases, sometimes using a bit of a wider lens works to your advantage, right? Because if you only brought your 85 millimeter 1.4, but you've got to cover, this huge wall, you're going to be standing really far away, right? And guess what? That changes everything. Your 85 feels much different when you're that far away trying to catch somebody full length. So where you stand is going to be more important than anything else. That's really the trick here. And I actually did a video years ago where I show exactly that. We got at the time, high megapixel camera. I think it was like 50, right? My phone has that now. And so that we'd be able to do it. And we literally shot with a lens, like at different focal lengths, if you will, filling the frame. And when you put them next to each other, you can't tell the difference. There's very little difference between a 35 millimeter and a 50 or 75 or an 85 at the same distance. It's when you want to frame your 35 like a 50 or 75 or 105 that you start getting distortion, as people say, or other things. So that's something to keep in mind. Think about your environment, how you're photographing, your own personal style, and that will help get you in the right spot. But we're going to shoot with a lot of different focal lengths because, we got to zoom. All right. So we're using Eric isn't coming anymore, I guess. And we beat up Eric from Profoto enough lately. So, but these are Profoto lights. This one still has a tag on it. I guess I have to return it. I don't know if you ever, you're gonna see me in the back at customer service later, returning the tag. It says hand wash, do not try. All right. This is a beautiful umbrella. Erica requested it.
Look, we do 7.5 minutes of full prep for everything we do for you guys. And that includes taking stuff off display.
Just before we started, Seth was like, do you want a modifier? And I was like, oh yeah, I guess. All right, so no, these are Profotos. I'm gonna possibly use 2 of them. I think these are B20s today, B30s. These are B30s, 500 watt second lights, white umbrella, diffusion. Here we're keeping it really simple for the fact that this demo is about focal length, right? And when you're trying to experiment, I know you thought I was gonna take a picture now, he's talking again. When you're trying to experiment with something, change as few things as possible, right? You wanna test focal length, shoot with kind of flattish light that you know is good. Don't experiment with really contrasty, weird light, because you might not see everything you want to see, right? If you want to experiment with light, then work with a lens that you're used to using, right? So change one thing at a time is a simple way to do it. So we're going to start with this. This should be pretty decent. Probably just the one light. We'll see. Right now, I'm currently set at 35 millimeters, I think. No, I'm not. I'm set at 57 millimeters, 62 millimeters. And what's funny here is when I came in, and this is one of the advantages of zoom lenses, I came in and Erica was standing here and I just took the lens and just naturally kind of adjusted it till she looked the way I wanted her to look based on what we have here. I didn't think, oh, even though this is the whole demo, I didn't think, oh, what lens is the right lens? I thought, what frames her up the way I want her to, right? So, but we are gonna actually walk our way through. So I'm just to give you an extreme example, we're gonna start at 35 millimeters, then we're gonna do 150, then we'll work our way through. Before I do that, though, I just want to get a proper exposure. So Erica, come a little closer. Right there, good. All right, so I'm going to frame her up where I think it looks good, which is just shy of 70 millimeters. So I got a whole extra 80 millimeters here for no reason. All right, I'm in. I want to get my camera settings. So what I'm going to do is, I have to amuse myself here. So we talk about this a lot. Whenever you are using flash, right? One of the main reasons why we use flash photography is for control, right? So in order for me to know I'm controlling the space, because Seth spent a long time, and you can watch so many TikToks of him telling you how hard it was to build this space.
I hate you so much.
But this space has beautiful light. Like, this is really well lit. I mean, Seth did a great job with this. It looks great. I look good. Believe me, if you see me in person, this is great light. But this is not necessarily the light I want for my photo, right? So you might be in terrible light. You might be in some hall at a wedding, or you might be in somebody's apartment, or their backyard, or whatever. What you want to do ideally is get rid of as much of the ambient light as possible, the light that exists. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to set our camera so that when we take a photo with no flash, that it will be black. The frame will be black. So we're going to set it at the fastest shutter speed within the normal range. We're not using high-speed sync here, even though we could, because not everybody has high-speed sync. That's why I never use high-speed sync with these. Lowest ISO in the normal range, 100 in this case. You might say, well, I watched a video on YouTube. Are we on YouTube? Right? They said 400 ISO is the best. Well, in this case, I'm trying to get rid of the light. So what's the best ISO to get rid of the light? The lowest one. So 100. And then we're going to set our f-stop to basically give us a black frame. That really depends on where you are, right? If you're in a dark house, if you're in outside, if you're in Adorama in this space, f8 usually works for me. So that's where I'm going to f8 in this space. So that's where we're going to start. Then we're going to take a shot. Of course, I took a shot with the flash because I did not do what I was supposed to be doing. So pretend like that didn't happen. Ignore that. So I'm going to basically take a shot, and we should get a black frame. We'll pretend like that first thing didn't happen. All right, so nobody saw that. We'll cut that part of the video. Boop, we'll delete it even. Even though Erica always poses well, even for the black frames. Do you think she knows that I might screw up? Probably. Right, she's always ready. So here we have the black frame. Make sure there's dust on my screen. I'll get rid of that. Okay, so I have literally tried to retouch out dust that's on my screen in the past, so you got it. So we're gonna grab the exposure adjustments. And what I'm gonna do is to ensure that it's actually a fully black frame is I'm gonna slide my slider over until I start to see Erica. There she is. So here we have Erica at about 3 1/4 stops more light added. So that means that that's our baseline for our shadow, over 3 stops. Any light that we see from this point on is going to be created by us, right? If the light looks terrible, that's on me, right? I might blame somebody else in the audience. I'll pick somebody randomly, but really it's my fault. So this is going to be very simple, basic light. Hopefully you already got a glimpse of it, right? We're in TTL, which is through the lens metering. You know, I'm going to go to 7.1 just because I feel like it. Okay. We're focusing and we take a shot. Okay, so now we have our exposure and we're really simple here. And what did we say our focal length was? This is, for those people that are keeping track, this is 62 millimeters. You know, and there she is. She looks great. It's lit up. I could add a fill light or something, but I think this is fine for what we're doing. What we can see here is this. Typically, when you're standing at any distance from somebody, that's, as I said earlier, that's going to affect how they look, like the compression. Well, I'm approximately 5 feet-ish away from Erica. I have found, from my style of shooting, for what I like to do, that's about the right spot that I like to stand. So if I wanted a tighter shot than this, I would use a different lens. Like, that's usually how I make a decision. I've already picked my spot. Now I'm going to choose the lens. So let's say that we want a little bit more of her. I might choose a 50 millimeter. So now we're at 50. 50 is going to give me a little headroom. It's going to give us a little space to breathe, right? So when Erica looks at me, boom, she's going to look like that. And then we have a 50 millimeter lens, and we can see that when we put them next to each other, obviously it's wider, but in fact, right, you got more of her head, you can't believe it. But in fact, you know, when we crop them the same, she basically looks the same because I'm standing the same distance away, right? Because the distance that you are makes way more difference than the focal length. Now, that's not just in compression, which was the first thing I was talking about, which obviously is relevant. It's also in, oh, I know, you just blew that whole way. Depth of field, right? Because the closer you are to something, the more shallow the depth of field will be, right? So if I want a more shallow depth of field, I can get closer to them, physically closer, not zooming closer, but moving physically closer to somebody will make my depth of field more shallow. So if I had, let's say, only a 62 millimeter lens, because, you know, I carry that around sometimes, I would have to back up. And when I back up, I'd get what? More depth of field. Now, if I had some beautiful bouquet behind her, imagine that, right? With this gray paper that they give me here. I've been doing this how long?
That way. Just shoot that way.
You know how long I've been here?
Shoot
One
that
roll of paper a year. Seth, I'm like, Seth, can I get new paper? It doesn't even reach the ground anymore.
I mean, a real photographer make things happen.
And he goes,
but
he's
here
like,
we
oh,
are.
maybe after the break. Like, I have to wait.
Oh no, he just complains. Not like he doesn't have all this stuff to make bouquet happen. But
All right.
Well, what you guys don't know is Daniel Norton spent the last 15 years only shooting to the right.
I only shoot
That's
one.
it. That's it. So
This is my good side. Whatever. Okay. Okay. So now let's dig into this. Okay, so obviously at 50, I mean, that's not exactly a great composition, but she looks fine. I'm a decent distance away. If she was doing something, flailing her hands, if she had a hat on, maybe, I might want to shoot it to 50. But I can go all the way to 35, right, if I want, because that's what this lens goes to. So we'll just do that just for the heck of it. Now, this is not going to be a good composition because I don't feel like getting off the tripod, which is with the 35, I would probably start to get lower, and you're going to see why in a second. Right, so with the 35, we have lots of space. Since I'm centered on her, I get more space above and below her, right? So we have way too much space up above. With the 35 millimeter lens, I might get lower. When you are shooting somebody, generally speaking, with a camera, you want to keep the camera at the level kind of in the center of what you're shooting. So if I'm photographing Erica, her body, I want to be lower so that she's in the middle, right? I don't want to have to point my camera down, which is what I would have to do with this. But I'm too lazy to move the tripod. Yeah, nobody wants a 35 millimeter shot. Maybe we'll do 35 at the end. If you want a wide angle shot at the end, stick around to the end of the video where I'll tell you the secret tip number 17. Okay, so, all right, let's get to this. Any questions so far? No questions because it's super clear or crazy. Yes, sir. You thought it was a good idea to shoot eye level. I was muted somehow. That's a really good point. That is true when you're shooting a portrait, right? Because we don't want to shoot above or below somebody unless we want to affect the mood, right? If you are, right, so you've probably all heard this, if you shoot up at somebody, it makes them grander, right? If you shoot down at them, it makes them more, you know, you're in control. that's mostly due to actually the tilt of the camera, not the level of the camera. So you'll see that if I go lower, I'm going to do it now. See, you made me do it. I wasn't going to do it. It's not in my
Guys are falling
contract.
for his trap of making you help him fill time. That's all he's going to do.
They pay me by the hour. I got to make this. All right. I know, this is crazy. Now, if I was making a portrait and I was using a long lens and I was pointing it up her nose, that would look terrible, right? But if I keep my camera level and I'm shooting like more of a full length shot, I would normally do this vertically, but I'm just for this, yes. I know, that's why I'm not doing it. I'm showing you that I wouldn't do that. I understand the question. He said, when he said eye level, I meant the camera. Yeah, no, I'm not eye level anymore, right? That's why I'm doing it. So if she looks normally straight ahead, right? Then we can see that she's not distorted at all, right? You can see that. If I shot at eye level and I wanted to get her whole body, right? I know I'm holding the camera in the air. You can see how there's distortion, right? You see how I'm shooting down at her now? Because even though I'm shooting eye level, I'm shooting down at her because the camera's tilted. But that's a really good point, because a lot of times you'll hear things like exactly that. And that is a great piece of advice. Shoot at eye level, because what they're addressing is this idea of when somebody's sitting down, don't point the camera down at them, right? Which is what you get in that second shot. I mean, it's not so extreme because I'm so far away, but you get the idea, right? So if you want that little bit of tilt, you know, still that can be your style, but understand why you're doing it, right?
There's a question in the chat. Rick's asking, how does the aperture and distance from the subject affect the background?
Okay. Well, in the case of plain paper, the aperture and distance from the subject, I mean, not that much, right? Because the paper being in or out of focus is kind of irrelevant to us. If the background were, in fact, a design, or it was something interesting, like maybe if Seth was holding a pot of flowers, right? Right, we should do that next time. Can we get that in the budget, Teresa? It would matter, because the further something is from the subject, the more out of focus it is, right? And that amplifies, because it's all about ratios, right? So if I take this remote and I put it here and focus on it, and she's there, she'll be out of focus, right? But if I move it closer to her, then she'll be less out of focus. If I move it further towards the camera, she'll be more out of focus, right? I'm using her as a subject. And this is the subject instead of Erica, because why would you photograph Erica when you have a remote, right? So it does matter, but in this case, I don't worry too much about it. This is why shooting against plain paper is very nice, because I don't have to think about that problem. Okay. You know, anything I can do to be lazy works to my advantage. I know. We'll fix it in post.
You can judge how lazy he is just by his posture. You know what you're getting into just by looking at Daniel Norton.
That's true. All right. All right, so going back to approximately eye level-ish, because we're going to shoot mostly longer focal lengths now. It might be a tiny bit low. One more. Oh, right now we're shooting, we are shooting with the Tamron 35 to 150, f2 to 2.8, DI, III VXD. I memorized that. I did. It's written right here on the side of the camera, believe it or not. Thankfully. So all that means is that it's a zoom lens 35 to 150. The f2 to 2.8 means that it's variable aperture. When you see a lens like that and you go 2 to 2.8, you're basically buying a 2.8 lens. Let's just be, straight up. You got to consider that. It's only f2. It's only at its widest, usually when you're on your widest. So it's an f2 lens. It'd be great for like super low light when you want to be wide angle, but when you get to the 150, you're going to be at 2.8. But what am I shooting at? 7.1. I don't need to shoot wider than 2.8, so I'm not really worried about that. But do keep that in mind. I can't shoot at f2 when I'm doing these longer focal lengths.
And if you guys are wondering what each shot is focal length wise, if you look at the bottom of each frame right here, that tells you the millimeter he's at.
Yeah.
All right.
So according to I'm using the ring on here. It's right now I'm set at 85 millimeters, because you know what? If you ask a lot of photographers what the portrait focal length is, they're going to say 85 millimeter because someone sometime in the past said that was a focal length, right? Was it you? I don't know. It wasn't Seth. Seth doesn't shoot with 85. Nobody shoots 85. Seth shoots 85 all the time. That's his.
I have a 30-minute video and a half again.
Okay. Watch his 30-minute video on shooting 85 millimeter, or I will just do it right now. Okay, so why is 85 millimeters a kind of a good focal length for portraits? Because again, getting back to the way you stand thing, right? Can you come a little bit closer? Yeah, just because of the light. Okay. If we're standing 5-ish, 5-6 feet away from her, that's about 2 meters, maybe a little less than 2 meters, 1.5 meters. It's 1.5 meters away. And I just assumed that you knew metric. I have no idea. I mean, I assume if you're not, yeah, I was right though. Okay. So if you're standing at that distance, this is typically a good framing for a portrait. So if we look at Erica, she's looking at us and she's like, hey, I'm a portrait time. And we do that, right? We get a nice, that's kind of nice, right? That's a good framing. Notice how the top of her head is just slightly cut off, right? We got head and shoulders, right? You know, and again, she looks great, right? Now, of course, I think somebody's calling me. Oh yeah, excuse me while I take this potential spam call. Okay. When we look at this one here that was shot at 62, again, looking at the face shape, I mean, obviously she shoots her hair differently, but looking at the face shape, it's not that different, right? Because, I mean, it's not exactly the same because I moved the camera and she moved. She's a little closer to me now. So, right, we can see that. So what's the difference between 62 and 85? Mostly how we can frame it, right? So here we are. If you want a little bit of Erica's head cut off, like who wouldn't? And we want more of her torso, your 62 is better, right? If we want a tighter, you know, nice thumbnail, it's a good thumbnail right here. I got to move you a little to the side so I get a better thumbnail. I'll AI add some. We can.
AI use.
For the life of me, I don't know. I'm not a Photoshop person, but I swear I'll take a picture like that and be like, oh, this would be a good thumbnail. I need some space to the left. And I'll use that AI fill thing and they'll put like a giraffe there. I have no idea. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. It's like, I just can't do it. I'm like, this is good. I don't know. I mean, maybe. All right.
So the chat's just thrown out all these random millimeters that they all are into. And I think you guys are proving the point that this isn't about the millimeter of the lens.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that all of you are saying completely different numbers, some I don't even think it exists, but okay. I'm just kidding. But like you guys are proving Daniel's point right now.
Right. So, Seth loves the 85 1.2.
I mean, I like some 85 1.2.
He likes a very specific Nikon one.
It depends on what you're shooting, and it depends on what your frame is. You know, it's never you never go by the lens first. I'll say that.
Right. So let's keep working our way up because I think it's kind of fun. So we're going to keep roughly the same distance for now. Then we'll start working into something a little bit more organized. So I'm going to go to 100 because these are just the markings on the lens. You know, so I mean, it may be 1 or 2 millimeter off. And we can see that at 100 millimeters, this is one of my favorite portrait lenses ever. Was a Canon used to make a 100 millimeter lens. And it was a great little portrait lens, I thought, for me. And we can see it just gives us a little bit more room, right? 100 versus 85. She's still the same distance. She still basically looks the same. We're just tighter, right? I could shoot the 85 and move in, but then that would make her decompress, I guess. You'd be decompressed. Which actually adds a lot of kind of normalcy. I've noticed that through the years, people are becoming more and more comfortable with wider lenses for portraits, but it's not that people weren't doing it before. I used to work for this guy. He shot tons and tons of covers for magazines, Time magazine, this kind of stuff. He always shot with an 80 millimeter lens on a Hasselblad. Now you're all going, well, 80 millimeters, but an 80 millimeter lens on a Hasselblad is like a 42, right? So we're almost wide there. All right, so that's 100. Let's go to 135. Now 135, yeah, question.
Rob in the chat is asking, is there a difference between using 85 on full frame versus 50, which is like an 80 equivalent on crop sensor? Before Dan answers, just remember equivalency just means field of view, not millimeter. It's a crop, literally a crop. So it's field of view.
Right. So that's a really interesting question. So here's the thing. Assuming that your 50 millimeter lens on your APS camera is framing up, you're standing at the same distance as you were with the 85 and you're getting the same frame, then it should basically be roughly the same. That being said, there are, when camera manufacturers make lenses, they do think of things like this, like what this lens might be good for, what it might not be good for, what traditionally things would be good for. So you may find that the 85mm lens has been designed in such a way to like get better detail or whatever than the 50. So you might see it wouldn't be the same unless you're in a system like Leica. Well, somebody just said Leica, that makes very specifically Summicron 50, Summicron 35, Summicron 135, you know, and then they're all the same because it has to do with the lens. But generally speaking, you know, you're talking, that's the answer to the question. It's a crop, right? So it's not the same, but it's not really different either. Okay. Because remember, that's all you got to do. Stand in the same spot. And that's fine. She's a pro. Erica's not moving. All right, here we go. This is going to be my favorite. I can tell. That's 135, right? There's a great Vanessa Joy video about shooting with it's a Canon 135. She loves a 135. Does she always use it? Probably not. Was that like 10 years ago? So she might not use it anymore at all? Maybe. Yeah, it was probably Erica in the video. Now we're at 135, right? So here I am in my small space, right? Shooting in a small space, and I've not changed, right? We're cropping in based on a zoom, right? So the other thing we can do is we have a 150. 150. Can you believe that? What does not want?
That's just funny because in caption one it's saying 119.
Ah, that's interesting. Yeah, again, the markings on the lens are approximate.
But it's also firmware and who knows what else.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to shoot this, but it's going to crop her in too extremely, but just so we can see it. The 150. Even for me, that's too much cutoff, right? So again, I'm just leaving it in the same spot because I'm just trying to show the differences. And with this, you know, I would get a little taller. Why not? Am I going above eye level? A little bit. But I'm not tilting the camera down, right? Yeah. That way we don't crop off her. It's kind of an awkward thing though, right? I think I'm too tall. I like topping off the top of the head. So we're going to go here using the rule of thirds. All right, here we go. And boom. So that's our full 150 according to this. What does it say there? 150. There you go. All right. So what ends up happening here? When you crop in really tight on somebody, it also kind of takes her out of an environment. I know the environment here is a piece of gray paper, but it starts to change the feel slightly too because we're seeing less of her, right? What is she wearing? You know, what's around her? Yeah, I'm going to. We're going to shoot into the audience in a second.
Oh my gosh, what a treat, you guys.
My original plan, but Eric didn't show up, was I was going to have him go stand out there with a little softbox. He has that A1 every single time. All right, we're going to shoot into the crowd. So I hope everybody, you know, comb their hair.
How about this? How about we move back to this side so I can get that camera?
Yep, we're going to do it. I was going to go to the macro lens, but, you know, let's just get crazy. It's not often that we get to shoot directly into the store. Thanks, Seth. Seth, you have a broken foot. I would have done that.
No, you wouldn't have.
No, see, I waited till after he did it. So Eric would have done it. All right, we're moving. All right, here we go. We're going to shoot this. Erica looks perfect wherever she stands. Let's do this. Let's play around a little bit. Because, you know. I've got this 150. Come forward a little tiny bit. Right there. Come this way. Perfect. Okay. So we have this beautiful light that Seth has created in here.
You want to make it warm or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you do really?
Yep. I know. Look. It's important to be as cheesy as possible. I mean, as creative as possible. All right.
For those of you in the chat, Dan just asked me to make the bridge light warm.
It's important, whatever you're doing a photo shoot, to do it in Adorama. Because basically, once you do that, yeah. All right, so we're making this light up here.
You want all the
Warm? No, it's just, yeah, all of it. Yep. We could do salt and pepper, but I think that, you know, that's too advanced for this crew.
We're gonna go down a rabbit hole.
This is the problem with these LEDs. They're too fun to mess with. It is a nice color, right? Mm-hmm.
We are, ooh, it's so sunsetting.
All right, so we got. All right, so you're perfect, as always. I think we have. No, you're good. I'm looking at the light from the back. I'm getting a little bit on your nose. I'm thinking it's this one. Yeah. Hey, let's just forget about it for right now.
What?
Yeah.
How's that?
There you go. Perfect. Oh, that is good, actually. I was just saying it because I didn't want Seth to feel bad. All right. So we've got people in the background. We're shooting at f7.1, right? With all our settings are exactly the same. Boom. Oh, okay. We'll do it again. There's a surprise though. All right. Here we go. And boom. All right. So now you already saw what was going to happen. What happened, guys? That's right. And why is that? Because we set our camera so that nothing would affect our shot. Now we still see the display lights out there because that's like a specular light in the shot. Those are hard to get rid of. And we're not going to try. This is what happens when you go into a place, right? Let's say you're shooting an event and you're like, oh man, I got my little Profoto light and I got my assistant holding it. And then I'm going to set my camera and I go in there, I shoot the pictures and they look like when people say, looks like flash. This is nice and soft, obviously, but because we are not compensating for the environment. In order for it to feel like the beautiful store that Adorama is, we have to compensate. Now, how do we do that? Simplest way to do it is shutter speed normally, because shutter speed will not affect our flash. However, we want to open the lens up because I want to get the background a little more out of focus because nobody really wants to see you guys. I'm sorry.
So
Okay.
just for reference, you guys, we're filming this, right?
Yeah.
We set all the cameras to f4. He's been shooting at f8. So if the light in the space exposes at f4 for the video, why would it expose at all at f8? Make sense?
You know, I've been shooting in here for 10 years. Seth never told me the settings on the other cameras. It would have made my life so simple. Here I am trying to figure this out. All right, so I'm going to basically, I'm going to shoot at, you know what? This is how we do it around here. I'm going to shoot at 2.8. And why? Because I can. Okay, even at 2.8, and I know this because I'm magic, actually, because I'm using the, all right. If you go over here, I'm going to show you through the camera.
So someone's asking, can you side by side the 35, 85, or the 150 to see the compression of the face?
Yeah, I can. I'll come back to that in a second because I'm doing something cool now.
And we also did that like 3 times already.
Yeah, I was waiting for Seth to say that we already did it. So right there, what you see is that setting that it's like showing you a fake picture. If you use a mirrorless camera, everybody uses mirrorless cameras now, so what am I talking about? But you're like, I don't know, it looked great in the back of the thing, and I took the picture and it was too dark. That's because that's a setting, right? The setting right now is giving a fake exposure just so I can see. If I go like this is what it really looks like, minus the flash, of course. So you can see even at 2.8, the store is still pretty dark. You know, we keep it dark in here. It's like Las Vegas.
We just want you to keep you guys wayward so you don't
Right.
leave so quick you just get lost in a maze, you know?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my finger on the little button that Seth programmed in for me. And I'm going to open up my shutter speed until I get something in the background that looks interesting. They call that bokeh. Yeah, and I've never heard it said, it's called that before until today. Okay, so now, so remember I'm in TTL. So TTL is through the lens metering, which means that I did all this stuff. And normally back in the day, you would do all this and you'd take a picture and it would be terrible because you'd be like, oh, I forgot to reset the flash. But the TTL should compensate for the fact we moved it around. Notice how I said should? We'll see, because I don't have a lot of luck with it sometimes. And with a long lens to make me feel more like a real photographer, I'm going to look through the camera. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay. There we go. So this is 150 millimeters. And we are, if I can close that. Oh yeah, look at that. And we can see we've got this beautiful, you know, out of focus store. You got some bokeh back there. We need something.
Down some more. Come on.
Well, you want a slow shutter speed?
Yeah.
Yeah, so right now it's a little bit too dark still, but at least we're getting a little bit of environment, right? We can see you know, it's like Erica's so beautiful that she has her own light, but you all in the back, you're just living in darkness all the time. That's just the way life is. But you know, we accept that. I accept it too, believe me. All right, so we're gonna come over here. I could now, okay, here's the thing. You've got a lot of choices. So let's talk a little bit about the exposure triangle, because I have time. Like I said, they pay me by the hour. We have a lot of choices here, right? At first, I lowered the aperture, or opened it up, because I wanted the background to be more blurry. Almost died there. Then I slowed down the shutter speed to try to get some more space in the room, right? But I'm at an 80th of a second now. There's a chance that being as vivacious as Erica is, she might move. You know, perhaps laughing because of my incredible jokes. Who knows why? So I have another option, right? ISO, right? And like I said at the beginning, there's already a guy in the chat telling me I should have been at 400 to start off with because that's the native ISO of some camera that he had somewhere. So we're gonna go to 400 ISO.
So bitter.
I am, I'm
You're
bitter.
so bitter to the comments. It's just,
I'm a bitter.
I was raised in comments. You're
I was getting negative comments before you were born. All right, here we go. All right, here we go.
I was raised in comments. You
Okay, so now I went to 400 ISO. I kept the other settings the same. I did not fire the flash, and I did that on purpose because at a certain point, what's happening? The light in the space is starting to affect our shot, right? It was already affecting it a little bit, but so here's the thing. You can do all these things, but make sure that you keep in mind that initially our setting was based on keeping the space dark. As soon as we start letting the light into the space, now we've got light on Erica as well. Can we kind of clean it up? Yeah, we can actually. And that's what the softbox is for, right? If you're gonna shoot a wedding or something, just walk around with one of these things. Oh, she wasn't ready for that, or maybe she was. All right, here we go. And boom. Okay, I'm a tiny bit hot now, yeah. Okay, let me just do a quick adjustment here. Got a little hot on the TTL. Okay, I was like, what, stop-ish? Okay, so when you're dealing with TTL, sometimes, if you're me, it decides it doesn't want to work. It's all right. I forgive it. It's probably because of all the razzing that I give it. So I'm in Capture One. I'm going to bring my exposure slider down. Now, all I'm looking at, I don't care about the background, because that's not going to change. I'm only going to change the flash. So I'm going to bring the flash down, the exposure down until her skin looks the way I want. That's about 0.63. Now I can compensate on the flash, okay? I'm not going to change the camera. I'm going to change the flash power at this point. Excuse me. So there's lots of ways to do it. You can do it in TTL, but there's already somebody yelling at me to shoot manual. So I'm going to go manual, and I'm going to lower the power of the flash. It was at 4.2. I'm going to lower it to 3.6. That's 6/10 of a stop. You know what? I'm going to lower it to 3.5 because that's, you know, that was the aperture of the first zoom lens that I ever bought. All right, so here we go. Sets over there with the bounce. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think the modeling light's affected. Okay, so modeling light might be giving us a little too much. So we're going to come in and kill the modeling light. All right. What could be happening here is, okay, a little better, a little better. All right, so now we're starting to get a nice, clean light, a little bit soft. Okay, but it's clean. So let's take another one. We'll remain still. I'll give Erica some warning this time. All right, here we go. All right, here we go, and good. Okay. Boom. Now we have a shot that has beautiful Erica, beautiful skin tone, beautiful background. We'll make sure you get your money for being the background extra back there, everybody. And yeah, I can identify all of you, so you guys will all get money. You guys in the front, we can't see. You're not getting anything.
No, if you read the little tiny sign that's over here, it says that you've already agreed by sitting down in those chairs, so I don't want to hear anything.
It's already on my Instagram, so it's too late for you to say anything. No, so seriously, so now we're basically using this. Now, what if we used a wider lens? That's what this is about, right? It's not about me just walking around with a 150. What if I was like, oh, you know, I'm off doing some street photography today, so I'm using a 35 millimeter. And then I came in and Erica was like, hey, Daniel, I'm at Adorama, do my portrait. And I was like, all right. No, I'm going real close to you. Yeah, I know.
Oh man.
No, it's gonna be good.
A hush falls over the crowd.
I'm trying to frame it up roughly the same. This is not going to be exactly perfect because, you know, we don't do things perfect around here.
Well, I did hire you for this
Yes,
demo, so
that's
right
true.
there we were off.
All right. If you hang around long enough, they'll hire you for a demo. Good advice for anybody here. All right, so now I'm going to look at the camera. Good, good, good. Oh, we didn't get the reflector on that one, but, you know, it's fine. All right. So what do we got? Now we're framing it up roughly the same. I'm even a little bit further back, and we can see how different the face looks, right? And look at the background, right? Less of the blur, right? More depth, right? It's not as compressed, right? You've got your people, and actually some people are gone now because the framing is different, right? So this is not necessarily how you want to shoot kind of a standard portrait, right? Now you definitely can shoot with 35mm a portrait and make something really cool. But if if somebody's like, I want my portrait made, this is probably not what they're looking for, right? So if you want to start kind of considering what people expect, I think at this point, then you want to go a little bit longer. So, you know, again, longer because we're going to step back. We're just trying to frame it up the same way, roughly, every time.
That said, if there's someone that has like an awkward type of presence, like a musician or some type of performer, there's a reason for that type of portrait, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yes, I'm not saying don't shoot 35mm. I'm saying that's not what we're doing right here, right? In this situation, that was not. All right, so here we go. We're at 85-ish, right? Again, same settings. Okay, so now we've got a little bit more distance to us. Feels a little bit more natural. Background's a little bit out of focus. So again, the 35, and we've got the 150, right? So all of them look fine, right? Me personally, I lean closer to kind of a more normalistic, around 85, but you might like the 150 better. You might like a 200. You might like a 300, but we don't have that today. Okay. Questions, thoughts, concerns? You hate when I shoot towards the store, don't you? You're like, where's that gray background that we love, Daniel?
You never shoot.
And that's why I don't do it.
I gotta do this like every Monday. I'm shooting towards the store.
I know. Okay. Yeah, Erica feels much more comfortable against the gray background. Erica's comfortable anywhere. She told me. All right. Yes. You're asking an irrelevant question? Is that what you're saying? So that's always the best kind when somebody starts off with this is not relevant at all, but you know, what size shoes do you wear? Do I use a Pro Mist filter? I mean, I have. I'm not usually using a lot of filters these days, no, but I have though. They're interesting. I like taking the stocking that you buy, the cheap stocking from the drugstore, put that over your lens, you know, and over my face if I'm going to rob a bank. All right. No, filters can be really nice. The net filters. So basically what your filter is going to do is break up your contrast usually. You've got like, I don't know what they call them. They used to call them portrait filters. They're like these like Vaseline-y things. I'm not so big on that. But when you get to some of the mist filters or the net filters are the ones that I prefer, they tend to just break up contrast, which can be nice because if you're photographing somebody and let's say they've got a lot of highlights on their face, right? Shiny skin, that can really help break it down. But no, I'm not using any filters right now. I don't think I own any of those anymore. I used to have them for my RZ. All right. It's a while ago. I mean, I still have the RZ. I don't shoot with it very much. Okay. Let's shoot the macro. I have a macro lens because as a point, I do not generally like to shoot portraits with the macro lens. And the reason that I don't like to is my own personal reason. I think they're too sharp. I know. Too sharp, can it be? But I have found that macro lenses are very sharp and that can be, to me, not ideal for the portraits I like to create. So I did ask for macro lens though, just because I know it's popular and people do ask this. This is a 90mm macro. We're gonna switch out.
They also have a different depth of field. Like it almost stops linear.
Yeah. Macros are pretty cool. I just don't generally use them for portraits, which is why I asked for it. I think it's important you know, when somebody's paying you to do a demo as an expert, that you should just do stuff you don't do. Because, you know, I mean, when else am I going to experiment on my own time? Come on. That would be foolish. So this is a 90 millimeter. So it falls in the range of where I generally would shoot somewhere between 50 and 70, maybe 85 at the longest for me is usually where I'm at. So 90 is nice because it's right around that focal length. They do make 50 millimeter macros as well. They're pretty common, but this one happens to be a 90 because it's the one I asked for. All right, I'm gonna move this back. Oh, umbrella. I guess the gray, yeah. All right. No, we're good. It's done. Perfect.
Yeah.
The reason why I use a giant umbrella is you just kind of just put it there. It's fine. It'll be fine. You just gotta put. All right. Yeah, you don't have to worry too much about it. All right. We're all for the easy. Come a little closer. Okay, a little closer. What's nice about macros, we can get really close, but I'm not gonna get that close.
While Dan's messing around, there's like 200 plus you in this chat and only 89 likes. I know, but just make him feel good. Hit like.
My mom's watching. Probably hasn't liked it yet.
Your mom used to.
Yeah, she hasn't been in a little bit. All right. Okay, so this is a macro lens. So for those who don't know, a macro lens generally means that you can focus really close. I mean, that's in practical terms, that's basically what it means. Yeah, so, you know, a true macro is 1-to-1, meaning that if you think of a piece of film, like a small piece of film or your sensor, it will replicate something. If you took a picture of a bug, let's say, the bug would come up on your sensor the exact size it would be in life, right? So, you know, very, very popular for jewelry photography, very popular for nature, any kind of detail, tremendously sharp. Of course, the closer you get to something, the more shallow your depth of field, right? So that can create some really interesting things as well. We're gonna basically stick with kind of our normal framing-ish, and we're just gonna take a look at what this macro delivers. To start off with anyways, we're back to 7.1. I put this in manual, so I'm gonna go back to TTL. My shutter speed's back at 200th of a second. My ISO is back at, oh, no, it's not. Back at 100 ISO. So what does that mean? If I shoot with no flash, we should get a black frame. Of course, if I have no tether, then you can't do anything. That might be because I turned the camera off to put the lens on. Didn't catch it again. There it is.
Okay.
It just takes a second. It's thinking about it. It's like, oh, should I tether today? I don't know, maybe. It's not like people are watching or anything or standing by. I'll just sit here and think about it. Every time I do this, this memory card has like 1,000 pictures on it that I have no idea what they are. And I every time I'm like, I should just format it, but what if I don't have them somewhere else? I know you all at home have a card like that somewhere. All right. All right, so we're in TTL, macro lens, 90 millimeter. Look at that. Looks just like the other stuff. It's real crispy, right? 90 millimeters, again, it looks like kind of the 85, right? Because we're in that same thing. But this will allow us to get closer. This is why I don't have a camera rep.
Oh, there's plenty.
All right. Okay. All right, so now we have a nice clean shot, and it's nice and crispy, right? Macro lens, crispy. So, and of course we can get in real close. Do you mind if I get in super close to your eyeball? Yeah, she's, you know. So, I'm not gonna get, should I do a half a face? That's trademark. No, what I'm gonna do is, because everybody hates how I chop off the top of somebody's head, I'm just gonna shoot the top of your head.
Okay.
All right. All right. That's really what I'm doing. All right, here we go. I'm gonna focus down there. How do I, oh, hold on. Let me check my focus. No, it's on, oh, okay. right, here we go. Might be, I think I focus on your forehead actually. Oh. But even then, it's still not bad. Okay, so I'll focus on it. Sorry. I had to. Okay, let me try. So we're real close. Actually, that's kind of nice when you, yeah. This is now like a 1970s movie poster cover.
Love it.
Yeah, like real close. Some Italian movie that maybe Sal would have shot if he was alive back then. Okay. Hey Seth, why is this not focusing over here? What am I doing?
Oh, you're in, because it's not going to when you're.
Did I do that then? Okay, there we go.
So.
Let's go. Okay. Yep.
Now.
There we go. Perfecto. Thank you. I just only touch anything. All right, that's better. Yeah. So now we can get in real close, real crispy. You see all that detail. And this is only a 20 megapixel camera.
I can read your watch. I can read.
So you know what time it is. All right, so the macro lets you get it real close. Now, is this kind of a standard portrait? No. But is it kind of fun to be able to do stuff like this? Could you do something where, like, let's say the person has a ring or something you want to get. You could use some depth of field, you know. Yeah, like, could you do this? Oh my God. I'm going to get kicked out of photographer school for this. Can you kind of extend it so it's more like, okay, yeah. I'm going to do something really dumb here. Get ready, guys. We're in dumb mode.
Something dumb.
Here we go. All right, here we go. I'm going to open up the lens. Again, I'm in TTL, so we should be okay. Oh, double shot. That's okay. So I'm trying to kind of control it up the field a little bit, right? I don't think I quite grabbed it exactly on there, but so you can do that. You see how it falls off so quickly, right? If we want to just like a partial. Let me actually get the shot of the ring. Now we know what we're doing. Just maybe, yeah, there you go. Yeah, well, I was trying to figure it out before. I wasn't sure what I was doing before. I'm learning. Okay. You know, so now we're doing some kind of like ring shot. Like, you know when you get that client, they're like, oh, could you do a shot just the ring? Sure. By the way, new foam core. No, old foam core. He didn't give me the new stuff.
I'm not giving you the new stuff. No.
Okay.
It hasn't been Danieled yet, so we're going to keep it nice and clean.
Clearly, I can't tell the difference between the new and the old, so it doesn't actually matter. Okay, right. So again, we're kind of,
Maybe we do this slowly.
oh yeah, let's try it. One of the things about shooting jewelry, by the way, a little side lesson here, is that jewelry, you know, generally speaking, this kind of jewelry anyways, it's reflective, right? So it sees everything around it. So one trick to it is to basically give it what you want to see in the jewelry. So you'll notice if you look at Tiffany's, like you'll see that there's always often like a kind of a bluish glow to things because they use like blue sets or blue paper and it kind of reflects into the jewelry, you know, without making it look terrible. That's how they used to do it. Now they do it with AI. Okay. No, I actually don't know how they do it. AI is what they do everything with. Okay. Oh, yeah, silver's kind of interesting. Could add a little more contrast. Okay. Let me try it down here, though, so I can get a kick into the thing. We're going to do one more. This is, by the way, the shot that I was kind of like being goofy about, and now this is one that we're going to spend the rest of the night. Yeah, it's like, boom. Look at that right there. You've seen this in some kind of Instagram ad? We're over here shooting some stock photography. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Yeah. Right, because we're starting off. There we go. That's very nice. We're starting off with that, and then we get that little bit of yeah. All right, cool. Questions, thoughts, concerns? I went sideways there, I know. Was that, yes, sir. So if you're shooting jewelry and you want to get an all black background, you basically just place the jewelry on the black, right? And then what you want to do is bring in reflectors to kind of give the jewelry itself light. Yeah. So that's usually, and oftentimes if you're shooting something that, this is a mistake that a lot of people will make, a lot of clients, because they think it looks good, is they'll overfill it and then it loses shape. You want jewelry to have shape, so sometimes we'll use black cards to actually add some dimension. You just want to be wary of what it is, because sometimes you could see it. It's like, oh, here's a black card in my ring, because you want to be kind of, you know, but yeah, so the black and the white reflecting back and forth, maybe like a little color if you want to add that in, all can add to it. But if you just want a stark background, what we used to do with like diamond stuff is we would put it on a piece of velvet, right? Which would then absorb everything, and then we just kick it and then bounce all the light back in. If you take something and stick it in like a light tent, like that's one of the reasons why you get such flat shots with those, because it's all white inside, right? But if you start adding like pieces of black gaffer inside and stuff, then you'll get some more organic looking, real feeling light. Other questions? No. Okay. I thought, okay. All right then. No questions? Let's do a quick little recap. You know,
Take my whole bit, huh?
I'm taking your recap. I got to take the bit. See if I can.
You're gonna do the screensaver thing next.
I'm going to do screensaver. Okay, so basically, again, coming back to this, we're kind of playing around, right? We can see that when we shoot with the wider lens, let's say our 35 versus our, what was that, like 50-ish? Yeah, 49. Right, we don't really get a difference so much in the shape of the face, but really we get a difference of what you get in the shot. So when we're thinking about this, we want to think about, what is it that I want to frame up? Where do I want to stand? Find where you like to stand. If you're shooting something like very beauty photography, you might want to back up a bit more and use a longer lens. That will compress the face and give that kind of hard, almost flat, you know, cheekbones, right? If you want somebody to feel more approachable or natural, you want to be a little closer to them, right? Because that's going to make the face kind of come out and be more rounded, you know, and feel more natural. If you get real close, it can have some distortion, which could be fun for some things, like Seth mentioned, musicians, or just somebody who's quirky, or if it can show intimacy, right? Just being really close to something, shooting like a child or a baby, like real close. It feels like, you know, you want to be there with that joy, right? So when you're making your portraits, think about that. If I'm shooting a portrait of a 5-year-old, I'm not going to put a 200mm lens on, you know, and stand way back shooting, because first of all, they're going to look weird, like one of those medieval paintings where it has like an adult's face on a child's body. But also, like, they're not going to connect with me from that far away, right? An adult who's a professional model that's posing for a beauty shot can stand where you out of your vocal range and pose, you know. A regular person, right, that doesn't feel comfortable being photographed, doesn't want you to be screaming at them. Turn to the left, you know. So be close, engage. So then decide your lens based on what you want to get in the shot, right? And then once you're there, you know, you can always crop in if you have too much space around it. That's always a good thing. One of the very first jobs I had was I worked for this wedding photographer, and when he would shoot portraits, he would use a Hasselblad on a remote, and he would actually frame it up so that like there was space all around, because a Hasselblad had so much space, a big negative. And he would just shoot because he felt like, then I don't have to stand behind the camera, right? I'm working with people who aren't used to being photographed, so I can sit on a chair or stand there, talk to them, and use a remote, right? You can't do that if you have the 105mm like right on their face, because you got to see them, right? It all changes the vibe of the shoot. And when it comes down to portraits, that's really the thing, right? You want to make a connection. You want to get people to feel comfortable. You want them to express. And that can be difficult to do, you know, with different types of lenses, or easier with others. So it comes down to your style. It comes down to that kind of thing. By the way, I'll mention again, this is the Tamron 35 to 150. And then I switched to the 90. I don't think I said what that was. That's a 90 macro. I think it's the only 90 macro they have. These are both for Nikon, but they make them for a bunch of other brands. This is the 2.8 macro. Any other questions? No questions. If you come up to me after we stop streaming with a question.
They're clearly enthralled. I can't hear you anymore. It's just insane.
Everybody has their questions right now. Yeah, I knew it. I knew you had a question.
I understand that, like, your personal preference is gonna be depending about what you want to do. But what would you say is the most natural shape of? I mean, or the more real one, if you compare, for example, would you say that the 85 or the 50 are more real? Which one?
Okay, so what do I believe, or what I would suggest is the most real? Do I think 85 or 50? Yes, those are probably in that range. 50-ish is that's why people will often say 50mm lens is a normal lens, but then they'll add to it because it's what you see, but that's actually not true. You see much wider than a 50. If you put a 50 to your face, you'll see that it cuts you off. 50 is the most natural lens because that's the one that when you're using it at a reasonable length, you don't have that weird compression. You're kind of in the center. So if you're looking for natural, 50 is a good place to start, I think. Other questions? Online? Okay, cool. We've got, what's coming up next week? Stuff happening next week. I'm back on the 11th, which is 2 weeks from now. We're going to do lighting like a cinematographer, you know, so kind of more kind of, I'm going to say interesting light, because man, and Moses knows, cinematographers light way more interestingly than photographers. We're all like softbox here. We're going to light something with some depth, some color, some interesting stuff. That'll be on the 11th. But before then, or is that the first thing that's coming up?
That's Dan's next event on Monday, September 15th on the live events channel, which is this QR code right here for all the lovely people who didn't bother to come down. You guys can just watch the streams there, but we got Jeff Carpenter doing multiple light portraits, and he's a really great photographer and educator. We've also got the photo critique for you guys. We'll give you guys that information when we get out live, because it's only in person only. But Tuesday, September 30th, Justin Picari is coming in. Really great kid, really striking work, and does a lot of stuff with color, which is great because he's doing creative gel techniques, not just make a gel on a light happen, but really good techniques and how to properly use them and get the most out of them, right? All right.
Okay, so thanks so much, guys. We really appreciate you coming out. You know, there's so many places you could be. It's cool that you're here. Thanks, Seth, on the Mighty Mix. Erica, this is Erica Lynn, NYC. I'm Daniel Norton. Last X-Witness. The X is silent.
All right, goodbye, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. Hit subscribe, hit like, drop some comments, and, you know, Daniel lives for comments. He loves long, long comments. Really lots of comments. All right, we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye, guys.